Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, you should be able to control it from there.
From here?
I think. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, hopefully I've timed this all out reasonably well. So professional communication for tech and design careers, but like I said, this really is more generalized. So we're going to go through communication best practices. I'm going to talk about some frameworks, not those two. This slide lies now. Then go through some. Let me see if I can refresh this. Oh no, why isn't that the right version? Did you guys copy the slide deck?
I think this should be the link.
Interesting.
So why is this not showing?
One moment. Yes. It's not quite up to date anymore, but that's my fault. All is well. Thank you. Okay, so best practices. Wait a minute. Oh, I see. I control this one. I'm figuring it out. Okay, so best practices. Then we're going to talk about a useful framework. We're going to go into some scenarios, and then I'm going to have a few challenges where I'll have somebody come up here, give them a story, a client communication, and then we'll see how they do. I believe I have a guinea pig already. And then a little bit in closing on what I would want you to take away from this. So, first of all, best practices checklist. And before I get into this, I want to make it clear. I've worked as a consultant, and I don't know what you guys think of consultants. When I went into the industry, I thought I was a little concerned. They don't always have the best reputations. They can be cutthroat, very, very focused, very pragmatic, very ruthless almost. But consulting really just comes down to two things, which I discovered I liked. I didn't always like my coworkers, but I did enjoy the job. Consulting is two things. It's being competent, which from what I've seen of you guys so far, you are already nailing this. I've mentioned before, I wish my classroom was just full of code lab students. That would be so much fun. But a big part of it is competency. The other part is making people feel safe. Seems like a kind of an odd thing to do, but consulting is also referred to as a confidence industry, where the primary value, the reason I make more money than I should as a consultant is because I can make people trust me, make them feel safe, make them feel like everything is going to be okay. They just need to let go and trust in the process. So the first part of communication with this is striving to make understanding effortless when you're communicating with your clients. So audience adaptation. You want to tailor your technical depth to your audience's expertise level and information needs. And programmers, I'm looking at you guys. I used to do this all the time myself, but when talking with clients, I get excited and just get overboard. I love programming. Of course, they love programming too. This thing's really cool. They will love it and they will enjoy it. And before I know it, my boss is looking at me and just like, just stop it. Close your mouth right now. I didn't understand initially. I just thought, it was like, I love it. Why don't they? But audience adaptation is all about understanding who are you talking about? What do they understand and what do they need? In the professional world, sometimes people love what they're doing and they're really passionate about it, but there are a lot of interactions you're going to have where they're here because they just want to get the thing out of you. They want to know, is everything fine? Can I check the box? And if you can make that interaction smooth and straightforward for them, even though they're not passionate about what they're doing, they will love you for making this easy and painless. And making sure you're not going over people's heads. So technical depth, audience's expertise. And that requires understanding who you're talking to. So with audience adaptation, I'll do this in job interviews. I will stalk the people that I think are going to be on my interview panel before I go to that interview so that when I see their faces, I'm like, I know what your background is. I know what your CV looks like. I know the jobs you've held, and I know how to talk to you now. I know what level of detail to not go into to drown you. I can keep you engaged. Okay, business context. I kind of touched on this a bit already, but this one was the saddest truth for me to learn. That at the end of the day, business outcomes and value are the things that are going to matter most to any clients that you're talking to. So Chevron, Genentech, at the end of the day, they're excited to work with you. They're building products. We're Reddit. We're creating an MLB app. But Reddit only cares about that because it is a step along the path to make more money, very likely. Reddit hasn't told me that personally, but generally that's the story. So we talk about business outcomes. We're talking about it's saving you money. It's reducing costs. It's increasing revenue. Overall profitable on your benefit to your profit margins. It's speaking in this language of business context will make sure that you're always speaking in a way that is meaningful. And again, as both a designer, I've got excited about things that I've done in the UI and how much cooler this brand is than I'm looking across the table and I'm like, they don't care. They don't care at all. Their customers will care. They will love this. They will benefit from it. But I understand right now in this moment, they do not care. So I'm going to be quiet now. And we're just going to let the metrics when we launch speak for themselves, and they will love the metrics, but they don't love the logo. They just are kind of indifferent. So I make sure I'm always talking about what matters most. Front loading, when I'm communicating, front loading is a fancy way of just talk about what's most important first. It's kind of a similar idea for you designers with visual communication, visual hierarchy. You make sure the most important thing on any given page is also the most visually prominent thing. So when you're communicating, in the same way, we want to make sure that eyes are drawn to whatever is most important, whatever is going to be most interesting, whatever is going to be most likely to excite, emotionally engage with people. If I'm talking to you, I get to control the order. I have the visual hierarchy of my sentence. So I should say whatever I think is going to be juiciest first. I don't want to make them win. Precision, whenever possible, if I can be precise, that's better. If I say much faster or I say 40% faster, 40% faster is better because it sounds like it's backed up by data. Even if the figures that I'm quoting are fuzzy estimates, at least they're specific fuzzy estimates. And these are, as a consultant, I never lied, but I did learn how to frame things in ways that feel more encouraging. Feel more positive, putting a happy spin on things sometimes. So precision is often a game of, okay, maybe things are not going beautifully in this moment, but what can we say about this situation? How can we describe it? We could describe it in very negative terms. We could describe it in ridiculously positive terms. Let's try to find a middle ground that gives us an accurate reflection. What are the problems we're facing? And what are the good things that we've done so far? We've made progress. Maybe we're behind schedule, but we are making progress on good things. So it can often be an act of creativity to find good metrics to talk about for precision. But when delivering a message, especially if it's not the message you were hoping to deliver, like we're slightly behind schedule, being very precise communicates to your client or whoever you're talking to that while things may not be going as they planned, you are still very clearly focused, methodical, in control. You're not sloppy. This isn't a sign of recklessness. The world is chaotic, and it's frankly not possible for you to always foresee everything that's going to go wrong. Things will get delayed, often for reasons outside your control. But precision will always help you reinforce that you do have a clear idea of what's going on. Clarity in writing. This one's a silly one. Use headers, bullet points, highlighting important information in written communication. Use correct grammar, spell things correctly. My students don't always do this. Sometimes I get incomplete sentences. I hope with your guys' clients, when you write emails, it's all quite polished because those details matter ridiculously. They really shouldn't. how you write and communicate in an email does not speak to your competency as a designer or a developer, but you will be judged. You will be judged on how you look, how you write, how you communicate, how you talk. And writing, for clarity, will improve your ability to ensure that communicating with you is effortless, but also will protect the image that you're putting forward. And again, just as a reminder, strive to make understanding effortless. So audience adaptation, business context, front loading, precision, these are all things that are going to help make what you say just feel easy. That interacting with you is just so smooth that they'll want to interact with you for no other reason than, and they will throw money your way. They'll keep hiring you simply because it's always a good time when we work with this consultant. And transparent documentation. Maintain accessible documentation of decisions, timelines, responsibilities. To be honest, I struggled with this one. This one requires you to be organized and methodical. You need to be precise, track all the details, and when you get questions, you can say, oh yes, we had a meeting on this and we decided these things. Working in a consulting company where some of my coworkers were not my friends, trained me to do this. It was either have very, very good documentation or get sabotaged sometimes, have other people take credit for my work, all sorts of fun things. I hope you never have to deal with that yourself, but it's good just to protect yourself to ensure you always get the credit for the work that you do, but also when working with clients and communicating with them, even the most well-intentioned clients will be forgetful. They'll imagine that they asked for things that they didn't. So having clear documentation of every time you meet with them. Every meeting I have professionally, I send out an email immediately after with a summary of everything that we talked about and everything that we agreed on and the dates in which I'm supposed to give them things. It's all very, very precise. This protected me so many times, but it also, again, when my clients have questions and I can just be like, got it, here it is. I look very well organized, and the important part of that is not that I'm really, really organized and that this is somehow necessary. It's not. I could be chaotic and I could have a stack of papers and I'll find it eventually. That'd be fine. But because when the client asks me these questions occasionally, and even going back to when I did IT support here at UC Davis for PhDs, some of them have, we'll say, a little bit of an ego. They can be a little difficult to manage sometimes. And I had a great reputation for working really well with them because they very quickly learned. They'd test me. They'd ask me they'd drill me with questions and ask me difficult things and be like, did you do the blah, blah, blah? Is this all good? And I'd be like, yes, yes. And we're doing it on this date. Yes, yes. And after a few questions like that, they'd just trust me and they'd give me no grief. And it was just super easy working with them. I just had to, for a few initial interactions, show I am a rock and I don't crack. And then they were just so relaxed and calm with me that I was getting called out to like, can you go deal with this professor? And I'm like, well, he's great. I like him. And like, no one else wants to deal with him. But we had developed this special relationship, which trust. Okay. And on that note, earn trust through consistency. Proactive updates. I hope that in general, when you're working with your clients, you already have scheduled communications, scheduled meetings where you're going to give updates, talking about what we've accomplished, any questions that we have, problems going forward. But it's always very important for proactive updates. Regular cadence is good, but the moment something catches fire, the moment something is threatening some sort of schedule or deliverable that you have promised, you reach out immediately and you give them as much warning as possible. Expectation management, clearly communicating constraints, dependencies, and potential challenges up front. Kind of connected to that proactive communication, but this is just a general philosophy of, and not even consulting, just work. If you want your boss to like you, manage those expectations of, I'm going to do this thing by this time, and anytime there are problems or issues come up, constraints happen, something's not working right, my boss quickly trusts that I will just proactively come to them with this information. And again, it sort of gives them a relaxed feeling. It makes them, one, be much more reasonable with me, much less likely to micromanage. And clients in this sort of relationship can get very micromanagey if the trust starts to slip. So making sure you're always communicating all of those things will keep that rosy picture in their mind. And then last, problems are, well, they're not problems. If you lean into them, they can be very, very useful. So ideally, client brings me a problem. I say, here's my solution, and it's going to be beautiful. Trust me. And they nod, and they give me money, and then I go build it, and then the end. Sometimes that happens, very, very rarely. Usually there's a lot of conversations and a back and forth, modifications, iterations. And in those moments, this active listening is critical. I spend a lot of time talking with my clients, probing their understanding to make sure that we are on the same page. If I understand what's going on, I understand what they're troubled about, that's far more valuable than simply understanding, they're worried about this technical thing. And I said, well, don't worry, that's going to be fine. And they keep bringing it up. I'm clearly missing something. There is a deeper insecurity that I haven't figured out yet. So I will, even though I'm positive there are no actual technical issues here, I can see there's an insecurity. So figuring out what the actual concern is. And clients are unfortunately not always excellent communicators themselves. Your ability to play detective and figure out what's going on inside their head will make you tremendously more valuable. I will often work directly for CEOs and startups, and I will do proof of concept work sort of in parallel to their dev teams. And CEOs they're often a bit eccentric. I get a lot of word soup, excitement. Sometimes they're waving their hands in the air while they're talking, and I'm taking notes. I'm like, this man is not okay, but he's paying me a lot of money. I distill all of this down, and I spend a lot of time playing detective to try to figure out what he cares about, because that helps me fill in all the gaps and helps me preempt what it is he's going to want from me later. So active listening. Constructive problem solving, this is a more straightforward one, but it's really just, if you're going to bring up a problem, always make sure you're bringing up solutions at the same time. You never want to be in a situation where you say, we have a problem, and then silence, because it is our job to always solve all problems. So even if you don't have great solutions or you're not sure which one they're going to go for, options can be presented as, look, we have so many solutions. You're going to love this. And then we do have some questions. We need to figure out which one's going to fit best. But I have to make sure I always have something. Because if I'm just bringing up problems and I'm not bringing up solutions, I'm not really helping anymore. Okay. Those are, I would say, all of the core concepts that I follow when I was thinking about all the interactions I've had, the spicy ones, the easy ones. There is, the section was called frameworks, but there's really just one that I would recommend. I've heard it called so many different things. Consultants love to make up new jargon constantly and then write articles about it. It's a great way for them to market themselves. But situation impact recommendation is what I like. That when I am trying to think about any kind of, we're building some sort of app. It's going through weekly sprints. We've got all these details, all these things that we're juggling, going through the process, and little fires come up. Random annoyances, distractions occur. As I'm trying to figure out what's going on with it, I'll think situation impact recommendation and that situation is context, what's happening. Impact is that figuring out relevance, importance, what is the actual, it's easy to get fixated on, there's a problem, the plan is not getting followed, we have a deviation, and that can be very alarming, anxiety inducing for people. I encourage you to let go of that every organization I've ever worked with outside this university has been a collection of duct tape and chicken wire. So get used to the chaos, because I think you're going to be finding it everywhere. So wrinkles don't scare me anymore. It's the wrinkles that have scary impact that scare me. So just because something's a little out of place, I'll look very closely and say, okay, but what does this actually mean? What will this mean for our app, for our customers, for our clients' customers? And then again, as always, if there is a problem, I have a solution. So making sure we have a recommendation identified quickly. And this little package of situation, impact, recommendation gives me a nice little, okay, we can have a meeting about this now. Okay, on to challenges. Here are some examples of things that I have observed on my teams. Names changed to protect the innocent. So I've seen writing like this. We've implemented a multi-layered caching strategy with Redis on the front end and database query optimizations using indexing and materialized views, which leverages B-tree data structures to reduce lookup complexity from ON to O-log n. I'm sure a few people in this room sort of understood that. That's not great as a message for a client. Much too technical. Too detailed would be walking through the entire authentication flow. Clients generally are not interested in any of these details unless there is a problem. And with this, and then too abstract, this I've had issues with developers on my teams where, and I know it comes from a place of love. They love what they're doing and they want to share that love. And I feel so terrible when I have to say, no, you can't share your love right now. The client is going to sleep. These ways of communicating are problematic. And again, that section was technical deep dive. That a technical deep dive has a time and place, but you need to be very careful that this is the time and place. So protecting against technical deep dive, we have to remember the idea of business context. Maybe instead of phrasing this caching system reduce page load time to 60%, that's a good thing. That's a metric. That's a metric that might interest business people. They're like, well, that sounds good. Support up to 10,000 concurrent users without performance degradation. Okay, 10,000, that's a lot of users. They know what users are, and they like them. Audience adaptation, which is a lot of just building on what they know, making sure, okay, we made the login process more secure, but it's just as fast. That's not too bad technical jargon-wise. Most people are going to understand what that means. We used industry standards and then token-based authentication. You're going to lose some people, but industry standard, that's good. And then I can elaborate on either aspect if helpful. Invite them. If you're not sure what they want, I find encouraging them to share is always good. Okay, and this would be an example of how you might approach this. You could go for that business approach in the language. Visual simplifications are good for technicals. I have found charts and graphs and pretty pictures are often helpful. When the client has questions but doesn't actually understand the problem. It's a strange situation to be in, but I have created nice pictures for people and it has satisfied them even though I was quite certain they didn't understand the pictures either. At the end of the day, I made them happy. So replace overwhelming technical explanations with clear, compelling stories. I like to tell stories as much as possible. So buried lead. Junior consultant writes a lengthy email detailing the history and context of a problem before finally mentioning the critical server outage in paragraph 5. Hopefully this hasn't happened on any teams here, but I would understand if it did. And again, it's all the details in those 5 paragraphs, I imagine, are quite important and relevant to somebody, but they might not be relevant to the person that was getting the email. So first, front loading. If there is some sort of outage, you don't want to talk about all the details of how this happened. And I can remember a particular sysadmin on one of my teams that had issues with another sysadmin, and I'm just reading this email he sent and just throwing the other guy under the bus. And I'm like, Dave, they don't even know who that guy is. This is getting weirdly personal. But front loading, focusing on what matters, starting with there's an outage, it's going to take this long, this is who's impacted. But we've got a fix coming. What the fix is, immediately a lot of your audience will tune out. They don't care about that. Clarity in writing, highlight what's important. And business context is that building on what matters, which, and again, like I said, business context is the most painful lesson I've had to learn, which is to let go of the things I love and am passionate about and understand often what affects the product. And the product's profitability is always what matters. And sometimes other things matter too, depending on who you're talking to, but that's the thing that always matters. And that's true for private sector, public sector, nonprofits. Charities, they all have to stay in the black financially. So an example of this might look like, an alert, production server is currently down, affecting all customer transactions. Customer transactions, important language there. Estimated recovery, 2 hours, nice and small. And now root cause. A whole bunch of people are not going to read that. But if someone is interested, it's there for them. Takeaway, so leading with what matters most. Confidence conundrum. I imagine this might be something that you guys are struggling with sometimes, and confidence is hard. So junior consultant responds to every client question with, I think maybe, it might be possible. Hedging language. Hedging language feels safe. It feels like you're not overpromising, and you really don't want to overpromise if you're not sure you can do a thing. You just don't believe in yourself. With hedging language and constantly downplaying what you guys are capable of, you'll make people wonder why you're so uncertain. That unfortunately, if you don't seem to believe in yourself, other people will assume that too. So it hurts the optics, but it also confuses the message. If everything you say is hedging, you really are being overcautious just from an objective standpoint, that the client is not going to properly understand problems because they think all of them are far more severe than they really are. So expectation management, making sure you're concise, communicate concerns, and precision. You always want to be specific. So maybe, might be possible, even if we have uncertainty, and I always have uncertainty. It's very rare that I am positive of anything, and I am careful with my language. But I would throw in any specifics that I can. So I might say something like, it hurts me a little bit to read this. I think maybe we could implement this by Friday based on our team's velocity and the scope of work. I have high confidence we can deliver that core functionality by Friday. Team's velocity, scope of work. These are very comforting phrases. But high confidence, not a statistic, but it is me giving something. It's better than might. It's not a promise. It's allowing for, I can't guarantee it, but everything looks good. And I will add caveats, and I'll say, assuming we get the blah, blah, blah deliverable from the other client on Tuesday as agreed upon, and this and this and this, I'll throw caveats in there, and then I'll say I'll have high confidence that everything's looking smooth. And it's a good impulse to avoid overpromising. That can be terrible. Managing expectations is important. And with managing expectations, I tend to pad my estimates so that I say it's going to take 3 days, it takes 1 day, and now they love me. And I want to make sure that whatever estimates I set, I always meet them. So I do intentionally pad them a bit and consistently exceed those. But avoiding overpromising too much to the point where there are no specifics and you seem uncertain, it cuts to the core of the value of what you're providing. Remember, it's not just competence, but it's also you're here to make this problem go away for them. You're here to make them feel like everything's going to be fine. And if you don't believe in yourself, they can't believe in you. Okay, avoiding conflict. This one's also tough for me. I don't like conflict. I had to learn how to stop avoiding it, but a junior consultant avoids mentioning that the client's requested feature would compromise security, hoping the issue will somehow resolve itself. So clients asking for something that's a terrible idea, and you don't want to just say, dude, no, that's terrible. No, you don't know what you're talking about. This would be hostile language, not a good way to handle it, but it does need to be handled. It does need to be addressed. I have learned a persona, which I call my team building puppy. I smile and I focus very hard on, we're going to make this awesome. This is, I want to work with you and figure this out. Or that idea you have, I really like that idea, but what about this thing? How do we get around that? And I will then just piece by piece turn their idea into confetti, which in my mind, I was like, this is a stupid idea and I hate this idea. And I wish this person would stop talking in meetings, but I will say it with a very friendly, positive tone in a very supportive way, because sometimes I'm wrong. Sometimes I can be a little prejudging. And then I'll say, oh, that is actually a really good idea. It's not quite right, but okay, I'm already in team building puppy mode, so let's actually make this good. So I'll try to give them the benefit of the doubt, but the team building puppy is firm and has to ensure that the issue is dealt with. So active listening, validate, understanding first, again, because I'm wrong sometimes. I may think I understand what's going on, but I always give the clients an opportunity to explain what their concern is. And then making sure every problem, or if there are problems in their solution, I have those problems ready to communicate and alternatives of how we can fix that plan. That is my role often professionally, is I'll go into meetings where there's a terrible plan and I'll just, in a 2-hour session, exhaustively reshape it into something that's a little better. And generally, no one's mad. Everyone's happy. Okay, and that might look something like this. I appreciate your request for this feature. I want to make sure we implement it in a way that maintains your application security. We're talking about stuff you care about. This isn't me just, having beef with you. This is, we're looking out for the health of the project. And I see there's an angle here that might not be right. But yeah, so discussing options. Moving along, I want to make sure I have enough time. So transform difficult conversations into collaborative problem-solving sessions. Surprise delay. This one will just happen sometimes. In this case, it was the junior consultant's fault, absolutely. But sometimes this just happens. So day before deadline, I mentioned that integration issues will delay delivery by 2 weeks. First of all, that shouldn't happen. We don't want to be doing that. But if it does happen, because, people make mistakes. We're not robots. So sometimes I will say, oh no, I didn't actually send that email, damn it. And then I've got to write an email like this. But so first, whenever I have to tell a client something they don't want to hear, it is always best if they hear it from me first, because now I get to control the narrative. Being the bearer of bad news, shooting the messenger, that's generally not a thing. It's whoever introduces the idea gets to frame it, put language around it. And if somebody else gets to control that narrative, it's probably not going to be the narrative I want. So when I do have to deliver messages that I don't love, at least if I get to deliver them, I can make the blow as gentle as possible. So I wanted to flag a potential risk to our timeline. We've discovered an unexpected integration challenge with the legacy payment system. We're just not going to talk about the fact that we only happened to look at it until just now. And we absolutely could have found it earlier, but there's no reason to bring that up unless they ask about it, in which case we would own up to it. But 70% chances will add 1 to 2 weeks to our delivery timeline. Again, we're being precise. We're trying to, as much as possible in a very uncertain world with probabilities and things that we can't measure, we're trying to give them as much certainty as possible. Okay, and again, transforming those difficult conversations now into problem-solving sessions. Meeting monopolizer, I believe this is the last one, and then I'll bring my guinea pig up. A junior consultant dominates client meetings with long monologues, leaving little time for questions or discussion. I imagine this doesn't happen in Code Lab. You guys seem reasonably well organized, but I've been handed teams to fix. And I remember I had a member of my team like this, and they very passionate about what they were doing, wonderful intentions, trying to share that passion, thinking the clients would love it too, and that this would make the clients happy. And I eventually brought this individual around. But they were dominating the conversations. It was difficult for us to do anything other than focus on those monologues. And again, the problem with if you are focusing on, or even if just your meetings are heavy presentation focused, and there isn't much time for a conversation afterwards, it's not so helpful. Because active listening, making sure you understand what they want and that what you're proposing absolutely is fitting with their understanding, that's critical. If I don't do that, I may be going in the wrong direction and continue to go in the wrong direction. And then again, building on what matters, those monologues from my team member were not relevant to any of our clients. They were just very polite. Now, good structure I like is I'll start meetings and I'll just tell them what's the plan here. I'm gonna go through findings for about 10 minutes, and I've got some questions for you, and then we'll we'll use the last portion of time to agree on specifics for next steps. This is good because often I will preempt questions. They'll have questions that they want to ask, and they'll say, oh, good, you had time carved out for me to ask you questions. That's very comforting that I had already thought about the fact that I wanted to have these conversations. I'm not avoiding it. I'm not trying to hide from them. So again, good communication. All right. Scenarios. Can my guinea pig come on? Hello.
Go easy on me, go easy on me.
We're clapping because you're brave.
Thank you, thank you.
Okay, so the first one's called I Don't Get It. The way this is going to work is we're going to have a context, some information about a situation. And if it makes you feel better, I've been thrown into meetings like this before where I was just good at talking and they were like, okay, so we know it's not your team, but we're worried if they go into the client meeting, something terrible is going to happen. So just quickly, here's an email and go to the Zoom call in like 15 minutes, please. I was like, oh my God, another one of these days. So I get an email kind of like this, and I'm like, I just discovered any of this existed, and now I need to talk persuasively about it and make the client feel safe. So development team has been working on integrating a new inventory management system with an e-commerce platform for a retail client. Okay, so making some sort of inventory thing, client. Past 2 weeks, they have successfully connected the inventory database to the website's backend. And the technical details here are not critical to understand, just so you know. Real-time stock synchronization, testing, 90% reduction in overselling incidents. That seems good. Set up automated stock level updates every 5 minutes. Cool. Integration was previously causing inventory discrepancies between the physical store and online sales, leading to customer complaints and canceled orders. That's bad. The new system addresses these issues by maintaining accurate real-time inventory data across all sales channels. That's good. Okay. You feel like you understand?
For the most part.
So the client says, can you explain what this API integration thing means? Because I don't. Okay, so there it is again.
What if I'm not the person for this question?
And that's okay. It's okay. So first of all, I knew this one was going to be challenging initially. Remember, if the client is saying, can you explain what this thing means? They're not technical either. They don't care about any of this technical detail here. So is there anything in this story that would speak to business considerations of that business context of like what actually matters to just somebody who's like, we have a website. I think it lives in a cloud. I don't know where the cloud is. And we have problems. They're very concerned about that whole customer complaints and canceled order thing. That's probably the only part of this that they even care about or even understand. And so do you see anything in here that you could tell them that might make them feel a little better?
The initial testing shows a 90% reduction in overselling. Oh,
actually,
yeah.
You have a loud voice.
Yeah,
I think
I
we're
could
good.
The third bullet, the initial testing shows a 90% reduction in overselling. And then it's updating every 5 minutes. So it's a lot more accurate than what they used to have.
Sounds good. Okay. So we try it and yeah. So audience adaptation principle. You're like, the person I'm talking to does not care about all those technical things. So we're just not going to talk about that. Good. Business value. And you were focusing on, and there's part of what you said there, reducing the overselling by 90%, improving customer satisfaction. That's really all that person wanted to hear in terms of what was going to make any sense to them. The rest of the details, those were a trap. Those were not things that would have any value. Okay, are you ready for the next one?
Yes.
Where are you? Development team has been working on a mobile app redesign project for a healthcare client. Oh God, healthcare clients. HIPAA is no joke. Recent developments include completed user interface updates for the patient dashboard, integrated new appointment scheduling systems, so sexy, resolved cross-platform compatibility issues, started quality assurance testing on core features. I had a lot of fun writing these. The project timeline was initially impacted by unexpected technical dependencies. So there were delays. The timeline got messed up. But the team has since implemented strategies and adjusted the workflow to maintain the planned launch date of June. Okay, we're still on schedule. Regular stakeholder meetings have been scheduled, but recent team focus on development sprints led to a brief gap in client communications. So things are good, but I haven't heard anything about the project in a while. What's going on, Sanjana?
Yeah.
There you go.
We've been working on the development of the user interface and have started testing, and we're ready, hopefully, ready to show the core features and the results of the testing.
Yeah. There's one other juicy detail I would throw at them.
The scheduling system that we have a new feature.
Oh, scheduling is really exciting, but that wasn't the one I was thinking.
No. Oh, the compatibility issues, I'm gonna assume.
No, I'm just torturing you now. I'm sorry. We maintain our planned launch date of June. That basically, if things are going screwy, the first thing the client's gonna think is, oh no, are we getting delayed? They just assume that's coming. And so if you say, but don't worry, we're still on schedule. Then they're just like, oh my God, yes, money. And everything's fine again. Okay, so proactive updates, front-loading principles. You did a good job focusing on the important things. And then as I was trying to poke you into other issues, you went into less and less important things because you're like, what does this man want? And that's fair. But and I just threw it as, we've completed many core features. Let me walk you through it. But really, it's that most important one, currently on track for our June launch date, which is everything is fine. The plan got messed with a little bit, but the plan is still good. We trust the plan. Okay, please just fix it. The development team's been up to all sorts of things, has been monitoring performance issues on a high traffic e-commerce platform. Recent analysis shows page load times have increased from 2 seconds to 5 seconds over the past month. That doesn't sound like a lot, but that is catastrophic. Server logs indicate database query optimization issues. It's the database's fault, always. Mobile users are experiencing longer delays than desktop users. That's terrible. Whatever it is you're building, there's probably more mobile users than desktop. And analytics show a correlation between slow pages and cart abandonment. Oh, that's the one we're going to get questions about that one. The team has identified 3 potential solutions and collectively could reduce load time by 60%. Okay, now Sanjana, you don't need to read the rest of that. That's a bunch of technical nonsense. The client has previously expressed concerns about both user experience and infrastructure costs. So why is the system so slow? Can't you just fix it? I want to make it clear that all these questions are actual messages I've gotten. I didn't make these up. The context I did, because I'm under NDAs a lot of the time. But those questions are real, and I feel a thing every time I say it out loud. Okay, so why is the system so slow? Can't you just fix it?
Yes, I can fix it, and then I would list out all the technical ways they're fixing it. Or maybe not. Like, we are reducing load time by 60%. Maybe would list a couple of the things that are here.
Yeah, I mean, I said, can't you just fix it? I clearly don't know very much about computers.
Short answer, yes. And then I don't know that I would say why it's going that slow necessarily, unless they really want to know. I think I would just focus on the solution.
Yeah, and I like that. I mean, the why is a little tricky. There's the things going on with database query optimization issues. Those are unresolved. We don't know what's going on exactly, but we got some solutions, and we're willing to throw a 60% on there. So try it. And precision and business context principles. Again, you were focusing on that important bit. So, and I can see throwing in what's going on. Okay, the page loads went from 2 seconds to 5 seconds, and we want them to be at 2 seconds. And that's a little statistic I can throw that's quite simple. They're, whole numbers, nice and easy. 50% drop in user engagement. We'd have 3 specific solutions that can reduce load time by 60%. And then, I want to talk with you about what fits your budget and timeline best, because we knew they had concerns about infrastructure costs and user experience. So it's one of those, okay, we've got solutions for you. Help us figure out which one you feel best about. And last one should be simple, right? The development team is working on a messaging platform for a healthcare provider. Current situation includes the platform already has secure text messaging capabilities and testing. Video integration requires additional HIPAA compliance measures. That's real. The team is currently at 100% capacity with sprint commitments. Third-party video service providers have been evaluated but not yet contracted because HIPAA. The client's request is driven by an upcoming telehealth initiative, but they weren't aware of the technical and compliance requirements for implementing video chat in a healthcare setting. So yeah, they wanted to go do a whole thing. They got excited, probably told marketing, spent some money, and there were wrinkles they didn't realize. The development team has experience with similar implementations and has prepared a detailed timeline accounting for everything that we need in security and testing. So we've done this before, we understand the song and dance, but our client's not used to it. So we need to add video chat functionality by next week. That'll be easy, right? Just video chat, it's like Skype, Zoom, you can do that, right?
This is a hard one. I would hesitate saying yes. I would maybe say
Good.
yes, but in maybe a month. I wouldn't say yes in a week.
And that's good. And you're not technical, but you looked at that and you're like, that's not a week. And that's solid. Yes, I don't think I had that detail in there. No, I should have put that in there. But you're correct. That is not something you can build in a week. But go on.
And then I guess, I would try to get them something in a week. Right now, I'm not sure what that. Text messaging, maybe. I guess it's in testing, but I guess that doesn't meet what they want.
It might be helpful though. I mean, they're looking for they have an upcoming telehealth initiative. They wanted video. Maybe chat would actually be helpful. It would give them something potentially that when they bring us problems and solutions, I will often discount their solutions and say, no, that's a terrible solution. Here's one that would be better, or here's one that's practical. So offering them what you can, good. And then what would you say about the overall request?
That we're working on it. That you're working with providers, and they've been evaluated but not contracted yet. So we're getting there.
We have that in there. Yep.
Yeah.
But also I would speak to that. We have experience with this.
Yeah, okay.
We've done this before, and we've got a whole detailed timeline, and we can walk you through that. And I think you actually got. Yeah, actually, I like the thing that you threw in there. I should have included that. Just that fact that chat is something we could maybe do in a week. But the video chat, that's not going to be possible in a week. But we'll talk about all those details, phased approach, and our implementation plan, and we can go over those details. But so and what's going on here? Expectation management, making sure they understand why it's not possible, all the details, trying to give them a solution as best we can, but then that constructive problem solving. But being realistic, that this is an ugly one. This is really a no. I want to laugh, but we're not going to laugh. It's a ridiculous request, but no, we can't do that. But making them feel supported and still happy that we're here for them. Okay, thank you very much. You did wonderful. Okay, just about done, and hey, I'm just about out of time. So, reflection, key takeaways. If I could leave you with anything for how to communicate effectively and professionally, always try to translate whatever it is you're talking about, whatever concepts are involved, into what is their business value. Whoever you're talking to, that might be the only thing they care about. They may care about more things, and again, public sector, private sector, nonprofits, charities, university, here at UC Davis, it does not change. At the end of the day, as an organization, we have to maintain ourselves. So this perspective, this lens is always a valuable way. So practice translating the things that you do, your craft, into that end result. And persuade with metrics, measurable outcomes whenever you can. Being more specific makes you more persuasive. Proactively address potential concerns. Don't try to avoid problems. Problems are not ideal. We don't love them. But if you jump on them, you get to control the narrative, which is always going to be better. And in many cases, I have, even though many things went horribly wrong on a project, I've had a client at the end of it say, this was just a dumpster fire, but you were great. This would have been so much worse without you, and really appreciated it, threw lots more work my way. So even though things are a dumpster fire, you don't just have to write it off as, because the project went badly, everyone's going to be scorched earth. Document decisions, progress consistently, and offering solutions alongside problems. So if they're, and again, it's that whenever you come to your clients with a question, a problem, a wrinkle, an issue, always have done some homework to say, and I think we've got an idea. Sometimes they'll reject all of them, and then you'll say, okay, our new idea is to meet in 3 days to have another meeting where we're going to talk about new ideas that we'll have come up with. But that works too. Okay, and lastly, believe in yourself. And I don't say this to be corny. I think you should believe in yourself. And I had trouble with this when I was about this age. But I mean that in it's hard for others to be confident in yourself, confident in you if you're not confident in yourself. You have to genuinely believe you can do the thing. And also, by virtue of the fact that you're in Code Lab, which is not the easiest club to get into, I hope you can take some solace in the fact that you are here. So if your clients are throwing hard questions at you, or you're struggling with problems that feel like a headache, or you're worried you're not going to meet the deadline, I like to make an appeal to the organizations that have selected me. First class I taught here at UC Davis, I was very nervous because I'd never taught before. I'd never had any teaching experience whatsoever before I taught here at UC Davis, but I just kept telling myself, UC Davis knows what they're doing. They hired me, so they must have saw something in here that would make it reasonable for me to maybe actually be helpful in a classroom setting. Now I really love it, but that first class was rough. Just repeating that over and over again helped me then just do what was necessary to be successful. So don't panic. And with that, thank you.